Oh, good evening, gentlemen. No, good morning. It's depending on when you read this. It is Migi Kai. I thought I'd do a video for you guys, especially Dan, because he doesn't really know New Zealand Dotos very well. He's been away for a while in Australia covering Australian teams, so I thought I'd just do a recap based on the knowledge I know of particular teams, and from there you can probably extrapolate. And I'll send you a document with all their Steam IDs in as well, so you can go through it yourself and sort of just check the individual players. But let's quickly get off to a start. And again, none of this is gospel or Bible. This is just me covering off what I know about these teams. Right, so iClean is a team that the king of second place is what I'd like to call them for the New Zealand Dota scene. For quite a while, they just kept getting second in a number of local LAN events, Ping Zero, online competitions, yada yada yada. They had quite a short roster change up with a Shepathon joining them, and somebody else I can't quite remember. Untamed was on it's Untamed team, if you know Untamed. It was Untamed's team. He went on a sabbatical, and a couple of guys jumped in, and then since then they've started winning everything that they've entered. So the team's been together a long time, and their strength really comes from the fact that they know each other and they've played a lot of games together. So it's very natural, it's not forced, and when you watch them live, the communication is not as much as you see in other teams. It's just more of a natural play style, and that gives them advantages when they're going into sort of events, particularly LAN events, where the other team may not have been together as much. And so they have to over communicate, whereas iClean don't. So in that team is Tobazino, who used to also be in another team. But Untamed has returned, so it's Tobazino, Untamed, and you can have a look at the other Steam IDs. But they won Digital Nations last year, as well as a couple of Ping Zeros and other events. They came first, so they're not the best team in New Zealand, but I do think that they are a contender for top 4. Team underneath that is the Forthcoming, which actually is a new name for them. Before that they were Tobazino's Rejects, or before that they were Tryptamine Dream Team. They came second at Digital Nations, beating out Famofu's Fairy Tale team, if you're familiar with Famofu's Fairy Tale team, which had basically the best lineup in the country at the time, but they hadn't played a lot together. So, but the Forthcoming or Dream Team, they actually had played a lot together. So they smashed Mofu's team, went to the finals, and just narrowly missed it against iClean. So another great team. Do I think they're the best team in New Zealand? It's hard for me to say because they haven't actually entered in a lot of the tournaments. They play casually for fun, but when they do come, they tend to bring their A game. So you could see a bit of an upset here potentially. Right, can't say Wisps. And now if you do Whips. I always say it wrong because I used to have a picture of a wisp. CSW, you should all know who CSW is. If you don't, I suggest you Google them. I'm not going to go into them because they're a top C team. They have a brother or a cousin of somebody who lives in New Zealand. They're using that person as their New Zealand proxy, and they're entering with their lineup without Turdy. No Turdy in this lineup. It's got that guy instead. Streamline is the remnants of Mekatiti Esports with a Rain and Numnot. Rain and Numnot, they've left Mekatiti Esports. They've joined Streamline, which is another group franchise thing, like community that does esports. The other 3 are Australian. I don't really know who those are. I'll be sending you links. You can go through that. But they seem to be doing okay. The events that they enter in, the top sort of mid-range team in Australia. Dan would probably know more about the Australian players than I would. But they're, I guess, another contender for top 5 New Zealand teams because they've got at least Rain in there and Numnot, who just seem to be in all the good teams in New Zealand for some reason. Right, so Moving XP has been around for a while. They were actually in a lot of our Dota 2 competitions. And they, again, another team that kind of the king of 4th place sort of thing. They tend to get into that sort of mid-range top 10, but not quite top 3. They've had a few changes, and let's see if I can bring up the team thing. No. Right, I was going to say, let's see if I can bring up the teams. Oh, here we go. I could do it without bringing it on the screen. I apologize. What was I doing? Moving XP. They've got a couple of good players, and I know the good players from... Where do I know them from? if this will allow to work. Oh, no, never mind. The links don't actually work in the document. You actually have to right click them. I might have to remake it. But they've got a couple of good players, including I think it's Charizard and Kokili, who are two kind of, like I said, mid-range tier bracket players that appear in a lot of teams. But they've come together with some other players that were in Mickey Esports. I think it's the one that they rejected from Streamline, and so he went and joined these guys. And so again, maybe top 8. Possibly. I think it's going to be narrow for them. I don't think they'll actually make the top 8 bracket. I think they'll just miss out. I think they'll find it very difficult with the lineup of teams that we have. Here we go for GG214. 214 is a player that a lot of people know. I think Dan actually knows him from when he was over here doing stuff, and see, it doesn't want to link to that thing. When Dan was over here last, he knows from Ofo, and he knows a bunch of guys, and this guy was in iPlay for a little while as well. So 214, probably one of the best New Zealand mid players we have. He has actually subbed for Immunity. He has actually subbed for Hans Reborn and CSW before, so he is definitely a top player. He'll be joined by Lucy TT, and who else? Biggie. Yeah, so a good team, right? So a very good team, very solid team. They have problems. Their problems are, I think, in my mind, they underestimate their competition a lot of the time, I think. Because I've seen 214 at a lot of events. He never seems to win anything. The team he teams to join always seems to come second. But I think that the team that he ends up joining, they play together a reasonable amount, and especially 214 and Lucy, they've played a lot together. So their communication is good. But I think often when he goes to tournaments like this, they don't always have the best synergy with their players. They're the best players, some of the best players by far, but they don't seem to synergize as well. So I'm interested to see if they will make the top 8. I believe they will, but they will again have a difficult time getting there. But I do think that they'll make top 8, possibly even higher. Ace All Clan Eaton. So this is a team that's been around for a long time, a very long time. Back to 2012, I started casting some matches. It's exactly the same team lineup. So they are a predominantly Chinese team, so it's an import team of students who live in the Auckland CBD. Probably Kevin knows more about these guys than I would, because they used to go to iPlay and a whole bunch of other places where Kevin used to do stuff. But they've been around a long time, a really long time. Soul Taker is the handle for one of them that I can remember off the top of my head, and he's been in a lot of competitions with Ace before, and they smash people based on the fact that these guys just play together, and they've got the actions per minute. Seeing them live is really, really impressive. But again, top 8, yeah, I think they're going to just make it. I think they've got the same level of skill as a lot of the teams that I've already covered off, especially 214 and Ace, comparable, same as Streamline. I think those 3 teams are reasonably even, and they could probably beat each other on any given day. What the fuck? Go away. Right, Invidious Esports, I actually know very little about this team. They are an Australian team. Dan would probably know more about these guys. I was having a look at their team captain before, and I was like, I don't know this guy. But they've been accepted, and they're in, and they have some placings within Oceanic Dota, so they make the grade. Right, so Mirren was actually a team that we invited because their bracket numbers dropped off. A bunch of teams actually pulled out last week, so we invited some extra teams in. Mirren is a team that was in the qualifier, and they beat All Clan Eaton. They went through to the top of their bracket, but were beaten by King Hypnotoad, and they're a bunch of team. I don't know who they are, but I've been told this is unofficial. I've been told it is a quote unquote, and this is a bit of banter from another team. They are a team of old school Dota 1 washouts, pro Dota washouts. So their skill comes from the fact that they've been around playing Dota 1 for a long time. Some of the some of the people I used to sort of help vet teams said, "Oh, these guys have been playing for a long time. I know these guys." So they're not unskilled, but they're just unknown in terms of a 10 in Dota 2. So interesting to see how they'll actually work out. Platronics NV, again, Dan will know more about this team, Australian team, using a New Zealand proxy for their event. They've entered in most of our community crackdowns and Dota 2 events, always finishing again in the top sort of 10 positions, but never taking out a first or a second. I think they got third for community crackdown 1, so a decent team, but again, heavily Australian-based team. Let's go down to here. So hoping that this is still working. Yeah, that looks like it's still working. Sweet. Right, here we go. Super Saiyan Sergeant. This is kind of a very bottom end team for this event, for the top invitational bracket. Again, another team that was invited, that applied, and we just held them off and said you can be in reserve. They have some good MMR players. In fact, they have a 6.7k New Zealand MMR player who I've never heard of, and I went and looked at their profile. I was like, holy crap, this guy's got a high MMR. I don't remember which one it is, but I said, all right, I'll let them in based on the fact that they have this really high MMR player who apparently is in the South Island. So again, I don't know much about this team. Perhaps when you look at the IDs, you'll look at these guys and go, oh, I know these guys, but I don't know them. But they've got accepted based on the fact that they were in a reserve position. X Squad is in a similar position, but they had, I forget where their document is. It actually tells me why I accepted the teams. They again had some decent. Oh no, maybe it was X Squad that had the 6.5. Yeah, X Squad had the high players. SSS actually were a low level team, a very low level team. They've never actually finished in the top 10 in any event. They were Y-Wolves or something, or X-Wolves or something like that in another event. But they've actually attended all of our events. So if I go look back and look at some of the IDs, they've actually been in, this is SSS, they've actually been in Community Crackdown 1 and 2. They were in D2NZ as well, or some of the players were. So I accept them because they've kind of, their spiel, their why you should accept us into the event was really well written, and it wasn't like, we're the best. It was like, we're just really passionate about competing, and we think that we won't give up, and we're not going to GG, and we're going to go hard. So I liked their sell, so I put them into the reserves, and because we had a drop, they got through. All right, X Squad, they had a high ranked player. The DSD is actually Kaz's team. Kaz's team was accepted on the merit of Kaza. So some would say, why would you accept Kaza? Because he's a troll and he's a confirmed cheat and all these kinds of things that I've got a lot of feedback about. So I accepted Kaz's team based on the fact that it's the bad boy team of the event. You know, if you think of WWE, you think of like a wrestling. You've got the bad characters, and they create drama and interest, and people want to watch those matches, and everyone likes to hate a team. So I accepted Kaz's team based on those merits alone, knowing that it will generate interesting matches and potentially higher viewerships. I've seen matches with like 140 spectators, no casters, just a scrim with Kaza in it, because people want to see Kaza get destroyed, or they like Kaza, or whatever the scenario is. He's a personality, whether he's toxic or good or bad is not, but his team's accepted based on the merit of Kaza. I don't expect him to go very far. They do have some good players, though. He's changed his lineup 6 times. He can't change it anymore, but I've accepted it, and he's now got Boons. So Boons is a really good player, and so before I was going to say he has no chance. Now he has a chance for top 8. But it's Kaza. We'll see how that goes and whether or not he can stick to the rules. Right, here we go. Trident Esports, another team that is a top Australian team. Again, probably need no introduction for Dan. You'll probably know them better than I will. Bloodlock's team, been around for a while. Top 10 Australian team. Don't seem to win a lot of events, but do okay. And in Rivalry Thrust, another team that did well in Open Qualifier 1 that we accepted, but unfortunately they just pulled out, so that's why there's a cost through their names. So they're in the bracket, but they're actually not in the event. We've just left it there rather than doing anything else. Rather than try and find another low-level team, we just said, like, right, that's it. This is as low as we want to go in terms of accepting teams, and that's where we're at. So that's the breakdown of the teams that I know about them and where their backgrounds. And hopefully, when you look at the document that I'll send, I just have to remake it. You will be familiar with those ideas, but perhaps more than I will be. Cheers.